Welcome to the first episode of Built with Django. Today I interview Alexander Isora. Alex is a founder of Unicorn Platform, a landing page builder for startups. In this episode we talk about his journey as a solo founder. He tells us about his experience learning and using Django for this project. That's the first project he learned Django for. Alex also shares his favorite resources for learning Django, as well as other things that were useful when he was discovering it. We also talked a bit about his process for launching Unicorn Platform, as well as attracting and retaining new users. I hope you enjoy this conversation with Alex, and if you have any feedback, as always, please let me know at my email, which will be in the show notes. Thank you for joining, and hope you enjoy. Hello, Alex.
Hi,
Welcome
Russell.
to the Built with Django podcast. How about we start with you telling a little bit about yourself for everyone who doesn't know you.
Okay, thank you. Thank you for having me here, first of all. I'm always happy to tell about my project because I love it very much. I'm Alex, and I'm the founder of Unicorn Platform. Unicorn Platform is a landing page builder for startups. And I'm the only coder in this project at this moment, so I'm a technician myself, and I'm happy to tell some insights about how the tech is done in my website builder. Many people ask this. It's a very interesting topic, and I can share everything actually with you. So I'm happy to be here.
The way our podcast works is people who submit their projects on builtwithdjango.com. So generally what we're going to do is discuss how you came to discover Django, why did you choose to learn it, how long it took you. And I've got to say that your project, Unicorn Platform, well, first of all, is very well designed. So obviously that's not Django's part. That's you as a designer part. It functions well. So I'm anxious to know how complicated the database is, how complicated all the processes on the back end. We'll get to that. So I think would be best to start with your exposure to Django. Why did you choose to learn it, or is it one of those, are you one of those people who learn everything and just have a big exposure to a lot of different tools?
It's a great question actually, because there are a lot of options, like Ruby, PHP, Node.js, and occasionally Python with Django. And it's actually an interesting question. I had zero experience in backend development before Unicorn Platform. I was a front-end developer with little experience in writing some PHP code without any frameworks. And then I started my project, my website builder. I faced with a problem. I needed a backend, database, all that scary stuff I was always afraid of. And I had two options. The first option is to hire a person who will code everything. That sounded actually very simple and straightforward. And the second option is learn backend and code everything myself. For months, I was sure I will keep to this first option. I will hire a senior backend thing and he will code everything. But a close friend of mine, Kostya, he persuaded me to go the second way, to learn everything by myself. And the reasons for this are actually very obvious. The first reason is that I will know everything under the hood of my project. This will allow me to fix any problem anytime, and because I'm responsible for the uptime of my clients. Websites of my clients must be uptime 100% of time. So I must be super expert in my code. And the second reason is that I will be able to hire coders in the future with a much bigger chance of success. I will know the technology, so I will be able to filter proper specialists. And this is how I decided to learn backend myself. But what about Django? Actually, it was very simple too. Since I didn't have any huge experience in backend, I decided to see around and see what my friends do. I have some friends in this and that projects, and some of them are very close to me. You know, we talk a lot, and we are friends. And there were two friends who had over a dozen years of experience in Django, incredibly a lot, and they agreed to help me in this path of learning and building a tool. They showed me some tricks and important books to read to build a scalable, sustainable architecture, a database which will not get down itself, you know. All this important fundamental stuff was advised to me by these friends. And so I just picked Django because there were some people who could help me with building this properly.
Well, that's perfect. When I was learning to build websites, the only reason I wanted to build my own blog, and I first tried a couple static builders, and then when I found out indie hackers community, I was like, okay, I need to learn something more concrete. I didn't know the difference between backend and frontend, and as you mentioned, the amount of options for backend is just too much. As you mentioned, PHP and Node, and the only reason I chose Django was because I knew Python for data analysis. So I feel like that was a good choice, and that's incredible because I don't know. Obviously, I don't know. It's not an open source project. I don't know how complicated your backend for Unicorn platform. I have to imagine it is, but to build it without knowing it previously is pretty incredible. So would you say that you started learning it by building Unicorn platform, or rather you maybe tested it on a couple smaller projects and then started building Unicorn?
Yeah, it's a great question. I have planned at first to build a demo project, the first project, which will be a playground. And actually, I dropped this idea because after having all this huge amount of knowledge of theory, I needed to implement it right away. And it wasn't actually a big difference if I use a playground project or if I use my final project. And I just decided to skip the playground part and go straight to the final project. There were some phases when I deleted everything and rebuilt from scratch. But at the end of the day, almost 6 months later, I see at the code and understand that it's not that bad at all. My trick was that I actually used not very much logic on the backend. There are just a few Django DRF, Django
REST framework.
REST framework, yeah, thanks.
Okay.
A few Django REST frameworks endpoints and the custom domain logic when I monitor if a request was from a client's custom domain and my backend operates with it. And this logic actually is very small. The majority of the builder of managing with pages, options, emails, everything is on the front end. Yeah, so it's actually a very small project, as we can say.
So you said you're a front-end developer, and all of the logic and all of of the value of your tool is in the front end. So what's how big is your experience with front end? What's your preferred your preferred front-end framework, if any, and
it's not actually very big, my experience. I had a few years of coding in HTML. We have been building with my ex-partner some cool fancy HTML templates with animations and jQuery stuff. Then I built a small MVP of my website builder with React.js, and React.js was a choice to build the final form, the second version of Unicorn platform. So I had not very huge experience, and I had to learn the front-end path alongside with Django.
That's incredible because I mean, your website does look very good. I urge everyone who is listening, might be listening, to check it out. So it's unicornplatform.com. It's a good domain. Without having so much experience, in working for Twitter or Facebook, it's incredible to see that. And all right, so you mentioned that your friends were very helpful to you when you were learning Django. Were there any other resources that you found particularly useful that you can share with the listeners?
I am actually get very tired when I read a book or one particular resource. My brain started to be bored very quickly. So when I was building it, I first tried to write myself something, and then if I don't understand, I just Googled it. And the first search results were clicked. It was some blog, maybe a Stack Overflow answer, a part of a book, a video by someone. So I had like dozens of the sources. I just don't remember anything.
Interesting. No, that's completely fine. That's the best way to go. Google, Stack Overflow.
Yeah, the most important developer skill.
Yes, it is very important. Yes. So, now we know that Django was, Unicorn platform was your first project that you used Django for, which is very cool. We'll get into more in detail with Unicorn, but were there any other projects that you built with Django? Anything else interesting that you're trying to use it for?
This might sound actually not very good for my project, but it's the only project I have built with Django and the only huge project I have built. This actually means I'm a very low experienced specialist, but I'm just have to be honest. Yes, it's my only project. It's only sustainable because of my friends. I thank them every day, Hi, thank you very much again, man, because they gave me so much important knowledge, crucial knowledge.
That's very important. Actually, that's one of the things I struggle with. I do most of my learning, as you mentioned, by Google or Stack Overflow. I try to find like meetups, or I don't have friends who code in or do any web development, in fact. So, having that is very important. So let's get into Unicorn. Why did you decide to build a website builder with, I personally don't have a problem with building something when it already exists. It's perfectly fine. It's actually the preferable way to do it. But what was your rationale? Why did you decide to build it?
It's a great question, because many indie hackers and startup founders don't know what to do. The idea to choose is one of the most important questions, how to choose. So I always tell about my story with a huge enthusiasm, because it might help someone with this problem. Thanks for asking this. It was actually very simple, the simplest choice in my life. I failed in my previous startup, which I joined only because I wanted to earn money, quick money. Then I returned to my homeland, and I actually was bankrupt with zero money in my pockets, and I also left the company, my previous startup, and I started to think what I want to do next. What's my next project? And I created a simple list of things that I truly love. There were some basic stuff like cats, traveling, obvious things that everybody loves, and some things that not everybody loves, like web design, web development, and startups. Then I saw at this list, and I sorted these points by the market size. I somehow calculated how many people are involved in each industry, in traveling, in web design, and like sorted. Then I took the first 5 points in this list, and all small industries, I just throw it away, because if I spend like 5 years building a startup in a niche which has very low money, I will be still without any money. But I want to move to Japan, and it will take a lot of money. So I wanted money. Then I saw this first top 5 bullets and sorted them again. I put the most desired, the most passionate, the most loved thing at the top. It was web design. And I just thought, okay, web design it is. And what's the biggest problem in web design? It's websites. The website builders today are not perfect. It's obvious for anyone who tried to build a website with a builder.
Okay. Yeah.
Website builder it is. Let's go, baby. And
that's very cool. I do struggle. I don't use website builders, although I did try at first, and then I realized, it's much more fun to go do it yourself. And to your point in the beginning when you said you have 2 options: hire someone or learn yourself. Whenever I currently live in New York, I try to, and I was on an internship, so the budget was very tight. So, whenever any question of I started with WordPress, and it annoyed me so much that basically anything you wanted to add, you had to pay for. I was like, all right, fuck this. I just want to learn how to do it myself, and then that's slowly, that's how I got into it. Okay, so that's very interesting to know that in the indie hackers way, this project was it was destined, or your goal was to earn money with it. So an interesting choice to earn money with the web builder. I see on the indie hackers community where people share their projects, and that you have 2.2K recurring monthly revenue, which is incredible. 2.4K visitors per month, although I'm not sure how up to date this statistic is. So since you are from Russia, but your website is primarily in English based, your blog is primarily English based, what's the distribution of users, would you say? Do you get primarily US citizens, US or other countries, or more Russian based?
It's a very popular question, actually. I just opened my dashboard where I see all the countries. I will tell the exact numbers, but before I do this, I want to add a little note about the purpose of a project. I talk with a lot of indie hackers. I'm Indie Hackers St. Petersburg organizer, and I meet tens of indie hackers like every month. And they ask me many questions: how to pick an idea, how to find time, etc., etc. One of the questions is, what is the best motivator to start a project? Some goes for money, some goes for passion. As I said earlier in my project picking algorithm, this should be something in between. Money is good. Without money, you will not build anything. your passion will go away one day. It's a mandatory. The passion is great, but if you don't get anything from your project, you will have to work if you're not rich, and your product will not go far. And if a passion is gone, it will die. So you should pick something in between. It should be passionate, it should be loved by you, but it also should bring some money. Try to find a balance, please.
Okay.
So what about countries? I just opened the last month statistics, and as I can see, it's 39 clients from US, the United States, 9 clients from the UK, 6 from Australia, 7 from France, 3 from Spain, 5 Canada, 3 Mexico, 10 Russian Federation.
All right.
And some other countries. So Russian Federation isn't my primary source of clients. They just find me in English-speaking communities like Product Hunt, Indie Hackers, and buy. I don't promote anything here in Russia. I just wrote one single article. That's it.
Well, regarding this, I also was working on a project, and Stripe is the first go-to payment processing company that you go to, but they don't do processing in Russia. How have you dealt with that?
A great question, which I am asked so many times, and I recommend one product for accepting money for recurring and one-time payments. It's Paddle, paddle.com. It's a great product, much more simpler, much more friendlier than Stripe, surprisingly. And yes, it allows you to accept money from any country, including Russia.
Well, to that note, I certainly want to, if anyone is listening, someone is listening, to anyone is listening, I strongly suggest to check out Alex's blog. It's Isora, so isora.me. You have some great writings. We'll go into them in more detail, but I saw that you had an article of merging Paddle with Google Firebase. Very interesting. So I'm very happy to hear that the integration and the setup is easier than Stripe, because I have had some troubles with that recently. Okay, so with Unicorn, how long did it take you to build the MVP that was acceptable for you?
Great question, because not everybody understands what is MVP and spend too much time on it. And I always show them my MVP as a perfect example, not very humble, but still. I spent 160 hours to build the first version of Unicorn, the MVP. It was a static landing page generator. Currently, the Unicorn platform allows you to use interface to edit content, such as text, images, buttons, and then click one button to see your website live on the web, to show it to your friends and potential clients. But at the first version, I stick to a much more simpler concept. It was a static landing page generator. When you was able only to pick some major components like call to action, a list of images, and press the export button, export HTML. And you was able to get this HTML, and in your text editor, such as Sublime Text, you edit your text, you host images somewhere, and you get this HTML and host somewhere on your hosting provider, on your servers. That's a much more complicated concept. It's for geeks, for techies.
Yeah.
But it was a great MVP, which proved the market demand on landing page builder for startups. And I just built a year later, like SpongeBob picture 1 year later, I built a second version, which can be used by non-tech guys.
Oh, interesting. So your first MVP was primarily based on web developers who. So what you did is allowed people to modify the page on the browser, and then the only way to proceed with that was to export HTML and then host it somewhere else, like Netlify or something else, right? Something like that.
Yes, correct.
Very, very interesting. So very MVP. So did you get much feedback on that?
Yes, I got a lot of interest in the project. It got a lot of uploads on Product Hunt, and it actually, while I was building with the second version, it continued to be sold very well. I don't remember that numbers. No, like 3-5 customers per month without any promotional from my part. Yes, it was given. So it was an MVP which brought a value to people. Minimum viable project, which actually was a good solid product itself. That's the MVP in my
cool.
In my world.
How long would you say it took you to get your first payment?
So my first sale was 160 hours later. I built it and posted on Product Hunt, and I got first sales. It was actually a very straightforward path.
Cool.
Product Hunt gives great opportunities for indies from all over the world to be announced, to be viewed.
Nice. All right. So I know you have a full-time job, right? And Unicorn Platform is your side project. Am I? No. So you're working full-time on Unicorn Platform.
When I quit my previous startup, I returned back to Russia, and I decided to build Unicorn Platform. And there was a money problem. I didn't have money to live. So I decided to run a crowdfunding round when I offered people huge benefits for paying me right now for future product. So I gathered like $10,000, and it was my budget for building this product. And currently, my product is giving me money from current new clients, and I don't have to work anymore, fortunately.
That's incredible. So can you just maybe talk a little bit about this crowdfunding process? So I know that in the indie hackers community, one way that people start working on their solo projects are quitting their job and living off of their savings. But having no savings and being bankrupt, as you said, is an even harder issue to solve. So how did you go about that? How did you which crowdsourced platform did you use? How did you convince people to support the project?
It's actually the third popular question I'm asked. Yes, it's the biggest problem, how to find money to build my side project. I'm working all day. I don't want to work more on nights. I want to live like a normal people. Come on, how can I build it? Yes, it's a very tricky question, and there is no one single right answer. You have to be an entrepreneur. You have to struggle with such problems. You have to fight somehow. It's actually a challenging. It's tough, but if it wasn't tough, everybody would be entrepreneurs. So you have to do it somehow by your own. If you want to try my path, the crowdfunding path, I can help you with it. What I did is I ran a small private crowdfunding round. There are some huge platforms such as Indiegogo, Kickstarter, some smaller platforms such as AppSumo, and surprise to me, there are also tiny communities of a couple of thousand people who hunt very small launches, such as mine. I was offered to run such small private round. What I did, I just built a landing page of a crowdfunding round, and I said, I will sell 50 lifetime licenses. Only 50, not 50,000, not 5 million, 50 people, 50 chosen ones will be able to use Unicorn platform forever for free. But we just had to pay only once. The price was $180, and you get this benefit. You don't have to pay anymore. Of course, if I build the product. And people believed in me, they just bought it without any, contracts or paper. We just saw my offer. I suppose the biggest, the most important part of this success was a solid MVP, which proved that I'm actually able to create website builder. I just need time. The second was my reputation. I am very active product hunt member, product hunt community, and I already built some successful web design products, and it was very likely that I will build this one too. Yes, all this in combined gave result. I collected this money very quickly in like one day, and this is one of the options to break this endless circle. You work and then your side project at the end of the day, which you can do because you're tired, and you can drop it. You can get a job. It's endless. Crowdfunding may help you. If you want some more detailed questions, I'm very open to everybody. Please reach me. I will help you. It's free.
What's the best way to reach you?
I think the best thing will be to put my site, my personal website. There are many contacts you can choose, like Telegram, Twitter, and anything.
Right. So this is your full-time project. How long do you anticipate working on it? Do you ever think of starting something new or working on something else? Because you now, obviously, your own boss, right? So you have the freedom to maybe put it on pause in terms of new features and stuff like this. You can start something new. Do you ever want to start something else? Do you ever get bored with Unicorn platform, or you just love it and you just work on it whenever you have the power to do that?
It's another great question, because only when you work on something a lot, like me, 1.5 years, you can face this problem. And if you hear my advice from my position, you can get prepared. In my previous projects, my previous startups, I get tired of a project very quickly. Like in a few months, I was already ready to quit everything. I didn't have this, part of character when you do the one thing for years, day by day, hour by hour for like 5 years. I was very afraid that I will get bored of this in a few months, like I always did in the previous projects. But surprisingly to me, this wasn't a challenge anymore. It wasn't a challenge to stick to one project. The secret is super obvious and simple. I started to do that I truly wanted to do, not because of money. Money is important, but not everything. Not because of somebody told me, not because of the media told me it's cool, not because my parents persuaded me to do it, because I loved websites. So I started to build website builder. That's it. The passion inside me is huge, even today. Of course, I have some low energy life moments when I'm ill or I'm just tired, but I always get back to a huge enthusiasm level, and I continue to do it. It's very super simple, but it took many years to understand this.
I mean, that's fine, but it's great that you did, find your passion, find your project. So I get a strong feeling that it is, you don't really want to drop it, obviously, and is there an end goal for you, or you just kind of keep working on it and you feel like that's your thing for a long time now? And I just basically wanted to see if there are any other things that you might be considering to work on, if there are any other interests you currently have to to develop or to create.
Oh yeah, there will be a few more projects announced this year later. I started 2 projects which will help my audience to build a better startup. Since my product is for startup audience, I also can bring more value than just landing pages, and by giving other tools. And I have a couple of such ideas which I'm building with a couple of my friends. They agreed to code this without any payment, and in a couple of months I will announce it. The first one will be a startup checklist, like a checklist for a startup founder to build a great landing page, to launch a product, to build a great SaaS, and to launch on a product hunt. It will be 4 checklists. And the second one is, it's very handy. It will be very cool. The second one is the emoji picker. It's a emoji picker for web designers. It's another product. So yeah, I switch my attention to another projects, but only to help my primary product to be noticed. Side project marketing, so-called.
At some point you mentioned that you considering moving to Japan. Is it like one of your goals, with that you want to take with your life? So you want to keep working on Unicorn and then get enough recurring revenue to be able to just generally travel, or is there something particularly that appeals from Japan?
Yes, I just love Japan very much, and my girlfriend too, as well. We can't move right now because she is studying at university and she can drop her studies. But in a year, we will just pack our bags and go to Japan. Konnichiwa. It's actually very simple, not too much time taken. It will need around $3,000 for 2 person to live and learn Japanese in Japan. Not very much. Cool. If you don't have kids, I don't have kids. Thanks God.
Okay. Okay. Yeah. I actually don't have too many questions, to go over. We've asked a lot of Django related questions, and I find it just to recap, I find it very cool that, you haven't been learning it for a long time, that you decided to learn it for your first project, and that you did end up building, a great product with it. I was very happy to hear about Unicorn. Happy about hear the path that's going forward. I generally try to learn to do everything by hand as well, like to code up. But I think I'll be checking it out. I think I'll try to use it for a couple websites. Is there anything else you wanted to tell the Build with Django community, or other communities you're part of? Is there anything I didn't ask?
Yes, I wanted to also give some advice to the guys who want to build his or her own product. It's the motivation thing. As I told, it was my first Django product and was actually my biggest bet and the only product I relied on. What motivated me to learn React.js almost from scratch and Django almost from scratch? It's actually the pressure from the crowd. When I promised to the society that I will build this, I had a huge debt. I couldn't sleep well. That wasn't actually very healthy. But I just had to learn Django. Like in school, when you have a test, you have to learn it if you're a good student. And you learn it. And there was a deadline to me. I promised I will build the website builder by the end of next year. You had to learn. And when you have to do something, you learn very quickly and very quality as well. So if you want to progress, if you are stuck, try somehow to build a stressful situation for yourself. For example, quit your job. If you don't, if you have some responsibilities, if you have kids, don't do it. You can set a public deadline. Like I promise to finish the MVP of my product in 2 months. If you promise it, you instinctively can't fail. You will feel bad. So you will work on this product with more enthusiasm. So yeah, promising to a crowd is a good trick. It's working.
Okay. Actually, one thing I also remember is from your blog, and it's getting big in the community. People love curation, ideas curation, resource curation. So, and you are pretty big on creating lists and best resources for different topics, and you kind of also suggest for to create those alongside with whatever project you're working on. And kind of, I actually loved your post on product hunt suggestions, like advice you give based on experience you have. So you posted the product hunt advice on your website. One of the advice was basically, as far as I understand, it's like you post your project on product hunt, and then next day post something that is related, mentioning the first project to get the more upvotes. I think it's pretty smart, pretty cool. And I think going forward, the idea curation and like creating a list of best resources is there's going to be a lot of those, but I think it's a good practice. It's a good thing for newcomers. Maybe someone should build a project where you are able to create. Actually, that was one of my ideas, where users are allowed to create their own lists and share, and so that the other users can upvote, and like the best lists get to the top of the thing, and they can stay there. Okay. Thank you very much for taking the time. Thank you very much for answering all the questions. This is a Built with Django Makers podcast. I think I'm probably going to call it that. You are the first maker we interview. Thanks a lot for this. And even though we didn't cover too many Django questions, I think the general learning here is that don't be afraid of it. It's pretty straightforward, and there is a big community around it. And so if you are able to build a product like this with zero knowledge, then it's possible to do a lot of things, as long as you have passion and an idea and some free time. So Alex, thank you very much. Thank you for taking the time.